Heidi-ho, Arkansas Pilgrim here again. I want to thank all you subs and visitors that have made it to this last part of this series on how to make bee supers using box joints. And it's been kind of a rough go. Probably more for me than you, believe it or not. I started this by just thinking I could set up my camera and just do my project and then talk about it as I was going along. And I didn't do a whole lot of planning ahead of time. Well, I spent a lot more time editing out, babbling or going off on tangents or making mistakes and then having to cut right when I finished saying something that was important to keep in the video, but then getting rid of other stuff. At any rate, I spent a lot more time fixing things than I did planning ahead, that's a good lesson in anything. A little bit of planning saves you a lot of effort later. Well, to get on with it, I will also let you know, this is a reshoot. I actually finished the project, but I got to this step, and this step is making a rabbet joint, which we'll get into. But I actually used a jig that I had already made, and I didn't show how to make it, and it wasn't really necessary. It was just one of those, I don't know, going on autopilot things, like, oh yeah, that jig that's what I made that for, even though there's other ways to do it. So I'm redoing here, and it'll actually be shorter because I'm only going to show you how to do the setup, because I've actually already gone through and done all the parts. So let's get with it. So today we're actually going to be working on the final cutting step, which is making a rabbet joint. A rabbet joint is basically a dado joint. It's like a slot, except it's on the end. This is like a rabbet. Rabbets on the bee boxes are cut along the ends, and they allow the beehive frames to rest on them. So that's what we're going to be doing today. As you see, we're going to be using the dado blade, this wobble blade. And the rabbet needs to be half the thickness. This is 3/4 inches. Needs to be half this thickness, and which is 3/8, and then 5/8 deep. Cut like this. That'll be 3/8 this way and 5/8 that way. And since we don't know exactly where this is lined up, what we do is we first check the depth, set the depth of cut first, and which I have already done. But you eyeball it to see about, depending on what your depth is, you can mark, if it wasn't going to be 3/8, which is just half of this, you put whatever you're going to be. You can just eyeball it, make a test cut, and then hone in on it. I've actually gotten to this where this is 3/8 of an inch deep now. And this is not critical. This is not a joint. It's just a cutout to allow, because we need some space for a frame to sit. Next, and this is one of the test pieces that you saw me using earlier when we actually cut the box joints. You set this at its farthest point, which you can eyeball up here. Okay. Now you know that's right at the edge. Okay. Now it needs to be 5/8 deep. You can eyeball by using the scale on your table saw and moving it over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/8. And then make a test cut. Plug the saw in. Safety, eye and ear. That's exactly at 5/8. We're in the last stage of the project, which is actually assembling the bee boxes. And I made a jig for assembling the bee boxes, but I didn't film that, and I had a couple of reasons for that. One was I actually just wanted to get it done and over with and didn't want to spend time messing around with the camera. So this is the assembly jig. It's pretty straightforward. Square box and some spacers. It's sized where this space equals twice this width. This dimension right here is the same on both end and side pieces. So, and the length this way is the length of the end pieces, and you'll see why in a minute. And then the space here is for the board that holds them in place. All right, here's how you use the box, the jig, to assemble your bee supers. Put the ends, the sides in. And I made these fit a little too tight. They fit, but they should have a little more space than this. And a rubber mallet is you're going to be needing this anyway, but getting them to actually fit in here first is important. You put in a spacer board, and there. See, all my tolerances were a little bit too tight on this, but hey, first time I ever did it. Okay. And then you do the same thing on this side, which is gonna block a little bit of the view here, but it is what it is, mate. Boards I'm using here, turns out was a little, it had gotten wet, so it's a little thicker. Use an encourager here. These should just slide in and out, but like I said, I made them a little too tight, but it still works. Now, you'll have to do this regardless with the mallet, because the box joint should fit tight. Not so tight that you end up splitting the wood. Now the way I made these, because of the rounded bottoms like I had mentioned, they don't fit quite the way they're supposed to, but the next set I make, I'll cut a little bit deeper and then they'll work out. All right, once you get those squared off, I happen to have an air staple gun. Yes, it's Harbor Freight, but it's not too bad. But it's a lot easier than using nails. Nails you have to pre-drill a little bit because they're close. In these tabs, the nails are close enough where it's going to split. Just in case. If you're going to be nailing through here, and if you're using any size of nail at all, you probably have to pre-drill through there to keep it from splitting, just in case. But I'm going to make sure it's tight. It's as tight as it's going to get anyway. Now these staples and brads can be a problem when they're on using them in pine because of the dark grain. Dark grain's very hard, and these thinner brads can hit that and deflect. It's like none of them came through. But sometimes you have to be careful about which direction you're If you go like this, it's going to hit one of these dark pieces and then deflect. So you want to give it a little bit of an angle. All right. And same way here. Now once that's done, you flip it over. Tap it down. You got enough room. There you go. And then do the same. Then once it's done, here's the tricky part, especially since it's so tight. Well, after struggling to get them out, I kind of figured out how to do it. Reach down, put it down, put a foot into here, and then pull the thing off. It came off not too bad. But it is too tight. I may remake it. I may find some way to loosen it up. But came out square, which is the whole point. Pretty square. Well, yeah, pretty square. Square enough. Square enough for a bee super. Anyway, oh, I forgot to do that other side. Oh well. Anyway, there we have it. I'm assuming this is actually looking at me. Still using my camera and I can't see right now. Do what you can with what you have where you are. I hope this has been informative, even though it might have been a rough go to get through. God bless y'all. We'll see you on the next video.